Hi there, so just a quick video to talk through how we would set this up. So the first thing we would want to do is make sure that all of our questions are contained within the exact same block. So I'm just going to go ahead and add a few more questions in here just to make it a little bit bigger. Now what we would need to do is we would need to actually assign our randomization in the survey flow area rather than on a question level. So if we click into survey flow, I'm just going to remove something I already have in here. What I would do is I would add a new element here and add a randomizer. And I would move this up to the very, very top. So the first thing I'd want to do in here is add as many embedded data fields as there are questions in my first grouping. So for example, if there are 10 different embedded data field or different questions in that first grouping where they only have to see one, I would just go ahead and call this round 1 or block 1, for example. Then for the value I would do 1, then I'd go ahead and duplicate this and just change it to 2. Duplicate to 3. I might have 1 to represent each question in that first grouping of questions. And we only want people to see one of these. So I would duplicate all of these. Let's just leave it as 7 for now, but if we had 10, we would just do the exact same thing. Then we would make sure that our randomizer is randomly presenting one of the following elements, not 7. And the last thing is to click the evenly present elements box just to make sure that these are going to be presented in an even fashion. Then what you go ahead and do is just duplicate the entire randomizer, and then you would start doing pretty much the exact same thing but for your second grouping of questions. We might change this to be round 2 this time. So you'd have round 2 and you would have one of these for every question in your second group of questions. And we would do that for each grouping of questions. So we would have each question, an embedded data field for each question of every group, and we would be randomly assigning one embedded data for each group of questions. Once we've done that, and remember this should be at the very first thing in your survey flow, so that's the first thing assigned. Then once we've done that, we would just save the flow. We would go back out to where our survey questions are, and we would apply display logic to each question based on whichever embedded data they were assigned. So you would click over here to the left hand side, and this is going to be, pretend my first grouping of questions. I would go ahead and add display logic, and I would say if embedded data, and then it was group 1. So this has to be the exact same way as you type it in your survey flow. It is case sensitive and space sensitive, so make sure this is exactly the same name as you've given your embedded data in your survey flow. And this is the first question, so I'm only going to show this if they were assigned the value of 1 for group 1. Then I'd go ahead and do this for the second question, and I would do the exact same thing. I would do if embedded data group 1 is equal to 2. I would do that for my third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh question. So each person now in group 1 has been assigned one embedded data field, and they will see whichever question corresponds to the value they have been assigned. I would then go down to my second grouping of questions and do the exact same thing. I would add display logic, and this time it would be group 2 is equal to 1 is equal to 2 is equal to 3, and so on. And the main thing to note is that there shouldn't be any page breaks between any of these questions, so they should all be on the exact same page. And display logic won't have any effect on page breaks because you're assigning it in the survey flow at the beginning. That means out of the 7 groups of questions, each person will be assigned one of the questions out of each group, so they will see 7 questions all on one page. So I hope that answers your question, but if you do have any trouble setting this up or any other further questions, please just let me know.